Hello and welcome to the Grueling Truth. This is the Grueling Truth NASCAR show. I'm Joe Spilman, along with Steve Risley and Ryan Peters. We have one hell of a show for you today. We're going to reach into all kinds of topics. But before we get started, I want to let you know again that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sports book that's right for you. Steve, Ryan, how you all doing tonight?
Doing good.
Steve?
Doing good.
Good. I think we have
not to mimic Ryan, but he just said it in the most concise, best way possible.
He did that. That was it was a good opening.
Thank you, Ryan, for your leadership.
We have a lot to get into.
You guys have a good show.
See ya. We have a lot we have a lot to get into tonight. There was some big news out of a couple racing camps this week. So let's get right into that, Ryan. I don't want to waste too much time on the intros. Huge news out of Trackhouse Racing this week. I'm going to let you talk about that.
Yeah, they got a new project going on. They decided that they're going to have a third team, but it's something that, I think is very new to the sport, and it'll be interesting to see how it's perceived by fans and motorsports alike. It's called Project, I believe it's either 91 or 93.
Project 91.
But 91, okay. So what it is, a part-time for Trackhouse, but it's for international stars to race in NASCAR events. So they're going to reach out, try to tap a broader market. We already talked about the last show how NASCAR is going to jump into the Le Mans series with their new car. So now on top of that, as they're going internationally, they're also trying to bring international talent to NASCAR, and we'll see how it is. It's almost like a pro-am in golf. Like you're bringing celebrities, except they're actually race car drivers, to the NASCAR circuit. I think it'll be good for fans, but I don't know how great it'll be for racing. Hopefully it's not Fernando Alonso hitting a jet dryer like Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah. Steve, do you got any thoughts on Project 91?
Well, I tell you what, yes, I do. This is the first I've heard of this. Questions. This car is obviously not going to be competitive for a playoff spot or point standings or anything of that nature, correct? It's just it's Mario Andretti driving the two-seater in front of the Indy cars every race they do. Is it something like that?
No, it's competitive. It's a car that's going to race.
Well, it can't be competitive if they're going to have different drivers because the driver earns the points, not the car.
Right. Yeah. From my understanding, Steve, it's going to be and I don't know if they've announced how many races they're going to enter this car in next year, Ryan. Did you see that? Okay.
They haven't.
I don't know
they
how
haven't
many
announced any drivers or any schedule for it yet.
So my take on this, Steve, is what they're going to do is they're going to enter a third car in selected races next year. And what they are going to try to do, my initial thought was that when it talked about old stars, I thought, okay, we have a Chevrolet here. Are we going to see maybe Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon? Are these the stars that we're talking about coming back? But after further review and kind of reading about Project 91, my understanding is, just like Ryan said, that they're going to try to bring international stars from IndyCar, F1, the different racing series out there, and have them compete in selected NASCAR races. I think that could be both good and bad, in my opinion. And I want to know what you guys think on this. One, it's either going to humiliate the series that driver is from, or it's going to legitimize that driver being able to drive several different forms of race cars. So I think at the end of the day, why it might be an opportunity and fun for some of these international superstars to drive a car, there's a little risk. There's a little risk that comes with that, I think. Steve?
Yeah, I see the expansion. It's kind of like what the NFL is doing, I guess, with trying to play in Europe more, and where I think China will be getting NBA games shortly. If we don't even have a team from China end up playing in the NBA at some point in the not-too-distant future. This, to me, boy, I tell you what, I would not want to be Chase Elliott, or right now I would not want to be Ryan Blaney, who's fighting his life off for a playoff position, and they bring over Lewis Hamilton and put him in a NASCAR. He has no idea how to drive a 5,000, 4,000-pound car, going 200 miles an hour on a banked track like that. And he managed to take out half a field because of his lack of knowledge of driving that, including Ryan Blaney, who blows an opportunity. Might be, I don't know. I just see, I don't know. This is like Dancing with the Stars to me. It's like Racing with the Stars now. And now we're getting into a commercial aspect of this as opposed to a sport competitive racing aspect of this. This is the first I've heard of this, so I have not digested it. But I tell you what, and not to mention the third car by Trackhouse, there are a lot of hungry young drivers out there that are looking for rides that want to compete at the Cup level, at the highest level. And why isn't Trackhouse spending their money that way? Are they going to be given what's the thing you put on it? What's where you get you're guaranteed in the race? What's that thing called?
A charter?
A charter. Are they getting a charter sticker for their car? So
I think they have to be.
Yeah, because I don't know that there's half those drivers over there that could qualify a Cup car. I don't know. I don't know. I shudder to think what I shudder to think what Kyle Larson would do if you put him in an F1 car this Sunday.
Yeah,
it would be brutally ugly. It'd be short. I mean, it would be short.
Steve, at the end of the day, do you think it's a good move or a good thing or a bad thing for NASCAR?
Well, right now, without having a lot of time to digest it, I see more negative than positive in it. I don't know what the positive is in doing it, other than NASCAR trying to play off the fact that all of a sudden, because of a TV series on Netflix, Formula One has gained popularity in the United States immensely, and now they want to go over there and tap into that market and bring European drivers over from different forms of racing, I assume. But if you tried to pull that stunt in F1 right now, they just run you out of town.
Yeah,
that's in my opinion. So right now, I see it to be not nearly as positive as I think it would be. Very negative.
Ryan, good thing or bad thing for NASCAR?
I think it's twofold. For marketing, I think it's great. For the sport itself as a serious competitive level of auto racing, it seems like a gimmick to me. And, I think there's ways that you can handle this. And it really depends on what tracks they're going to run at. If they want to be competitive, I think obviously a super speedway is the way to go. But at the same time, that would be the least amount of knowledge that any of these international drivers have ever done, is go onto a super speedway and 3-pack racing. And, like Steve said, one false move because the guy's not checking his bumper because he's not used to that. He's used to looking in his side view mirror that he doesn't have now. And not only does he end somebody else's race, hell, he might end up half the field's race. So then you're looking at, well, does he go to a road course? And I think that's probably the more likely scenario, is that they put these guys at Watkins Glen, they put them at Infineon, and that they put them, at COTA, something that they're more familiar with, and see what happens there. I don't think they'll be competitive to be at the very beginning. We've seen drivers come from other series and struggle in NASCAR. I think that's pretty clear. Juan Pablo Montoya was that way. Danica Patrick was that way. I believe there was another Dario Franchitti was in the 43 car for a little bit. He's got some open wheel experience, and they've never done great in NASCAR because it's unlike any other type of driving that these open wheel cars are used to. But I'm not surprised it's Trackhouse. I mean, one of the majority owners of Trackhouse, or minority owners, excuse me, is Pitbull, and as you know, Joe, that's Mr. Worldwide. So he's trying to reach as many people as he can. Right. He's a different type of owner. And at the end of the day, he wants to sell Trackhouse as a brand. And there's no better way to do it than going out and cherry picking these stars from the international market. And even if it brings, 10,000 people now wearing your stuff whenever these guys perform, to them, it's a win for Trackhouse. It's already a win because they've been producing on the track this year. If this was Cody Ware or Rick Ware Racing doing this, nobody would care. But the fact that Trackhouse in its second year is already built up, is competitive right now. Now they're adding something else to it. I think it's good for Trackhouse Racing. But as what Steve said, if somebody wrecks me that's never been in NASCAR before and I'm trying to race for a championship and you're only doing this because you're trying to make a couple dollar bills, I'd be one pissed off SOB. I will say that.
That's very good. I think that was a great topic of discussion, and it kind of leads us into the other big news.
One thing, Joe,
go ahead.
Ryan, add Travis Pastrana to that list of people. Tried for 2 years, ran trucks for 2 years, then got into Xfinity. Couldn't drive his way out of a paper bag in either one of them, and he's the world's foremost motorcycle rider in the world.
That is very true, Steve.
He is the number one person in the world on two-wheeled motorcycles. Put him in a truck, he failed miserably. Put him in a Xfinity car, he failed miserably. After 2 years, NASCAR just ran him out.
Wasn't Travis Pastrana, Ryan, you might know this, Steve, you might also, didn't he race the Rallycross for a while?
Yes, it's called like Gymkhana. He's also, like you said, the Rallycross, half dirt, half pavement type.
And he fared fairly well in that style of auto racing, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle Busch raced in that, I think 2 years ago, and I think Chase Elliott dabbed into it. I don't know if he actually did an actual race, but I do know he tested with one of the teams.
1 year.
Yeah.
Who was
Yeah,
and also the driver that drove.
Well, the guy that's most famous for that is Haley Deegan's dad, Brian Deegan. He's the most famous, rallycross, rally sport type of racer. Not rallycross, it's rally sport. We'll get international people killing us if we call it rallycross.
I'm going to go out on just a little limb here and talk about Trackhouse and what this, I think, NASCAR speaks diversity through and through and through and through. This car that Trackhouse wants to put in would be a great opportunity to find a young up-and-coming diverse driver and put him in that car and let him get training from the Cup boys and let him learn and build diversity in a competitive way. If there's a diverse driver out there, that could be a female, an Asian, another black driver. Diversity is just any, but find a diverse driver that wants to go in, and let's build some more diversity in Cup or NASCAR rather than this gimmick of bringing over, like I said, this is like Dancing with the Stars to me, is exactly what it is. We're going to put professionals with guys who are not professionals at what they do. The actors and actresses that do Dancing with the Stars are incredibly talented in their field. You put them on a dance floor, and all of a sudden they become amateurs real quick. So I think this is a conversation, Joe, if you would, let's table this and find out more about this and watch this play out and develop.
Yeah, and I think
I may be harsh, and I don't know. You sprung this one on me. Thanks for the warning here, Joe.
It's in the notes I sent you.
Well, I can't read all the notes. You give me 8 pages of them.
Well, yeah, I think that is true. We'll table this discussion until more information comes out. I think initially
it was just announced yesterday. It's not like it's been out for like weeks.
Yeah,
and it came way out of left field. I mean,
I don't know. Is NASCAR being kind of quiet on these? Because I just uncovered the Le Mans thing one day. I sift through the NASCAR stuff, the news in NASCAR. I go to a bunch of sites and just read. Click on the links and read what other guys are writing about it.
NASCAR can't even figure out when a race is over right now.
Yeah,
so let's not put too much on them.
Let's move on.
That does bring us into kind of keeping with the same form here.
Can I handle this one?
Yeah, Kyle. There are huge news out of JGR this week with Kyle Busch.
Yeah,
Steve,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Don't know if it's huge news or not because really nothing's been done yet. But here is Joe Gibbs was interviewed by a beat writer for NASCAR. This allegedly was a one-on-one conversation with him. Said the following, and he was quoted on this, and it's validated. They said this is what out of Joe Gibbs' words. Number one is Ty Gibbs will spend the entire this season and next season in Xfinity. There is no chance of him coming up run full time in Cup. He might get a ride with somebody here and there down the road points, but he is planning on another one and 2 full seasons in Xfinity before he comes to Cup. He is very close. Gibbs says they're very close to signing a tech-oriented sponsor for the 18 car. He said they're very close. We're not going to say anything yet, announce it, but expect an announcement before the end of the year with a complete deal to take care of the 18 car, or the 18 car will be sponsored. He wants nobody to drive the 18 car but Kyle Busch. And they are working with Kyle right now to hammer down a suitable contract for both sides. That's their number one priority, is to get Kyle re-signed right now. Now, those were the only words that came out, but those came from Joe Gibbs' mouth. Joe Gibbs, as we all know, is a man of the highest integrity in this sport, bar none. And I think if he says it, that means these things are about to be done. Now, Ryan, I defer to you because you're Mr. JGR like I'm Mr. Hendrick. We haven't found out what Joe is yet. Let's give him Penske.
No, bullshit.
Let's give him SHR.
He gets SHR. He does love Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, he does love Kevin Harvick. You get SHR.
I'm taking Rick Ware's team. Let's go JJ Yaley.
Based on what I just read yesterday, Ryan, you go first on this one. And that's just what I read. I repeated to you what I read. I have no opinion on it at all right now. But frankly, if I had my way, I'd just send Kyle Busch over to Formula One, let him race over there. Get him out of Elliot's way.
So the thing that I saw is exactly what you said, Steve, is that there is a tech sponsorship, but the thing that caught my eye more than the sponsorship itself was that they're looking for a one-year deal. I don't think that would be a major front hood sponsor for Kyle Busch if it's a one-year deal. Because at the end of the day, when you're talking about being a major sponsor in this sport, it's around $25 million to be on the front.
For Kyle Busch. For Kyle Busch.
Right, exactly.
Because he's probably the highest paid driver in the sport right now, I would guess.
Right. And I just don't think that JGR is going to sign a one-year deal for a major sponsor and then just be right in the same position as it was this year, except they've known about the M&Ms for 2 years now. So you could actually say this has been a 2-year negotiation. On top of the Ty Gibbs stuff, or Steve, you follow the NFL. Joe, you follow the NFL. Joe Gibbs is also a coach back in the day, Hall of Fame level coach. I see the Ty Gibbs stuff as just coach speak. To me, we'd like to keep Ty Gibbs down in the minor leagues for, 2 years. I think that would be great. If the 18's gone and Kyle Busch is gone, Ty Gibbs is coming up. I don't give a damn if he says that or not. I think
I agree 100% on that.
I agree 100% with you too, Ryan.
I think that's legit. Just, like a rookie comes to camp, he's the number 1 overall pick, and Urban Meyer's like, yeah, it's going to be a hell of a competition when we get to training camp. And everybody's like, yeah, hell of a competition. Right. So I feel the same way with Ty Gibbs. I think if something happens with either the 18 or somebody else moving forward, it's definitely going to be Ty Gibbs coming up. And to be fair, he's earned it. I mean, he's been a competitive driver in Xfinity. He's only had 24 starts and he damn near won 30% of his. Almost won
4 out of 24 last year and 3 out of 12 so far this year.
Right. And if you're winning 30% almost of your races that you're participating
in, moving on up.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think this is, again, just Joe Gibbs. He's felt the wrath of Kyle Busch from the media. He's felt the wrath of TRD from the media. And I think now it's just him trying to calm things down and say what needs to be said, so it kind of gets the monkey off the back. But at the end of the day, until we see something on a dotted line that says Kyle Busch will be back for next year and he's got a major sponsor, it's just noise.
Yeah. But it's noise from a credible source is the thing that I was trying to point out. I agree it's just noise, but it's just noise from a credible source. And, the 1-year deal for sponsorship, what I liken that to? Some bonehead team in the NFL signing an 18-year veteran quarterback wearing number 2 from the Atlanta Falcons to be your quarterback savior to take you to the Super Bowl next 5 years. It's kind of the same thing. So I see the simile there quite heavily, Ryan. Good put. Joe, what's your thoughts?
Well, I'm actually going to take this a different way or kind of have a different thought on this. So here's my question. You have arguably the top name driver in the sport, right? Everybody knows who Kyle Busch is, right? There's a lot of drivers within NASCAR that, the demographic that watches NASCAR, the fans of NASCAR, we know all the race car drivers, but just like any sport, people that aren't fans of NASCAR or maybe casually catch a race or two, they know who the top driver is. And Kyle Busch is a name that is associated with NASCAR, hands down. You say Kyle Busch, most people say, oh, he's a NASCAR driver. So here's my question. There's either an issue going on where JGR is pushing away sponsors, because you can't tell me that there are not sponsors out there that aren't jumping at the bit to sponsor Kyle Busch's car. I don't believe that in the least bit. When you're getting sponsorship for Rick Ware's race team, you're telling me right now that there aren't people that are willing to sponsor Kyle Busch's car and pay to have that sponsorship there. That's my first thought. And my second thought is, if it is directed by JGR, what's the motive? Because at the end of the day, Toyota comes out and says it would be a travesty if JGR loses Kyle Busch from their race team, if Toyota loses Kyle Busch from their race team. So why hasn't Toyota stepped up and say, you know what, as the Toyota Corporation, we are going to sponsor your car? Why haven't they done that? If HendrickCars.com can sponsor a team, and other affiliations of these race teams can sponsor a team and be a whole season sponsor, why couldn't Toyota sponsor Kyle Busch's car if they want to keep him in a Toyota? That's just a thought of mine. So at the end of the day, I don't believe that there is not somebody out there that is willing to sponsor Kyle Busch and pay for that sponsorship that Kyle Busch should have for a sponsorship. So I think Joe, there's a whole lot going on behind the scenes that I don't think we know, and we're just speculating at the end of the day. I kind of get the sense that JGR may be secretly trying to push Kyle Busch out of JGR. That's my opinion.
I think that'd be a shame if they do. But not to rebut a couple things you said, but yeah, there are a lot of people jumping to sponsor a driver like Kyle Busch, but are they willing to do it at a commitment of $20 to $25 million?
I would think so.
That's the highest probably package going in the sport right now. Even Elliott, who's the most popular driver in the sport, he has 4 sponsors on his car. Right. And we've yet to see Hooters yet, which drives me crazy. Because when he wins with Hooters, you get free Hooters wings.
Ryan, you were kind of smirking when I said secretly JGR might be trying to push Kyle out. You agree or disagree with that?
I actually agree 100%. I think the news, and I didn't want to just throw out conspiracy theories, but what I took away with them announcing that a tech sponsor wants to give him a 1-year deal, to me, the reason why that leaks is it's almost to me like JGR is putting Kyle up in a situation to say, this is the sponsor we got. It's 1 year, take it or leave it. And it sets JGR up to say, well, we offered him a contract and he didn't want it. I don't see a driver taking a 1-year contract with the level of talent that Kyle Busch has and what he's already done. So I agree with that, Joe. I think literally it's kind of like a way to wash your hands when you want to also bring up Ty Gibbs. I think that it's like, instead of finding all these different things out that there are, 3-year 3-year, 4-year contracts, I think that the only thing that Joe Gibbs right now is looking to offer Kyle Busch is a 1-year contract because he wants his grandson to come up. And at the end of the day, if Kyle Busch, reneges it, he can say, well, we tried. Now, on the opposite effect, another JGR driver and also an owner, and Denny Hamlin spoke up today, and I didn't want to bring this up without, telling you guys first, but he said he's the opposite of Trackhouse right now with 2311 Racing. He said they're not looking to expand. He's actually not looking for sponsorships right now for 2311. He goes, because in the business of trying to work with corporate America, the COO for the major businesses that they're working with, they move so much. He goes, we have a conversation where we think we're going to get a major sponsorship, and the next thing you know, that guy is not even working there the very next year. So he doesn't want to take on the same contract that maybe was verbally agreed on because he's moved on in corporate America to some other position. And maybe that's part of it. But to my thought process, Joe, and again, this is pure speculation, I'm more in line to believe what you said.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just everything coupled with it. Like, hey, we're gonna keep Ty down in the lower series for another year, but we're gonna offer Kyle a 1-year contract. So we
yeah, it's like, okay,
so,
those puzzle pieces don't not fit together from that, right?
So, just food for thought. Obviously, we're gonna see what happens moving forward here in the next couple of weeks, and,
Hey, Joe,
and I'm sure it's going to heat up. Go ahead, Steve.
One last point when you were talking about why doesn't Toyota sponsor them?
Yeah.
Toyota, in effect, sponsors all Toyota cars. I mean, TRD is involved with every Toyota out there. There's only how many Toyota? There's only 3 Toyota teams?
Yeah,
6 cars.
Toyota.
Yeah, there's only 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that, but is there anything prohibiting them from being a major sponsor of the car and having
no?
Their
But you
name
generally, I mean, last time was Goodwrench was with Earnhardt, and then I think for a long time, Quality Care was with Dale Jarrett, and then Dodge came on with the Dodge team with Evernham. When they first re-entered into the sport. But other than that, historically, the car manufacturers do not sponsor any one team. They try and distribute their wealth among all the race teams, giving themselves a broader opportunity to just put their car, be it a Chevy, Ford, or Toyota, in the winner's circle. That's just my thoughts on that. And Ryan and Joe, I completely agree with your conspiracy theory on Kyle. It's a shame if that's what it is, but a 1-year contract fits exactly with what he said, that they're not planning on putting Ty in the car until the end of next season. So it's a 1-year deal. Force Kyle to go through this all over again. Kyle gets frustrated and walks away.
Well, he did say he's got a pretty illustrious career ahead of him in simulation driving. So
yeah, I did see that too. Yeah. I don't think that there's going to be many people who are going to wait too long to snag up Kyle Busch.
I don't think
if
so
he
either.
becomes available. The other thing you don't know is Martin Truex. Isn't his girlfriend, isn't she battling cancer again, sadly?
Yes.
I think she's had a relapse of it, and I almost think some of his trials and tribulations may be attributed to his, the attention he's able to give to the Cup team right now, knowing that that's going on with his partner. So, I don't know how much longer Truex is going to stay in the sport, right now. So you don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, more uncertainty there than probably any other team in NASCAR right now. Penske looks solid. Trackhouse looks solid. Hendrick is dead solid. SHR, I don't know. They replaced Amarola yet?
Not that I've heard.
I think what they did was sign Ryan Preece to replace Almirola with Ryan Preece in the future.
Okay.
That's now that again, he's a simulation driver, but he signed a 2-year deal to be with Stewart Haas Racing. So I think that Ryan Preece actually will step straight into the number 10 car next year.
If we're throwing conspiracy theories out there, as much as I can see what you guys said with Kyle Busch, I can just as easily see Hamlin jumping over to 2311 and running a third car there. It's Toyota sponsored still affiliated to Joe Gibbs, and him going over with Bubba and Kurt. And how much Kurt is a guy who doesn't stay too too long in any one place anymore. And so I could easily see Hamlin saying, "I'm just going to go run on my own team."
Yeah, and he did not rule that out on Dale Jr.'s show.
Again, it's a conspiracy theory. We're shooting darts at a blank dartboard. So don't take back control of this show. Come on, get us under control.
Well, do you two have any other news that you would like to discuss before we move on?
My wife won $25 on a scratch-off
Well,
Lottery
shit,
ticket.
yeah, Steve. That'd buy you what,
Good news.
2 gallons of gas out there in California?
Yeah, that's about all you can get for $25.
Well, if we don't have any more headlines or news to dive into,
I think
let's not.
we killed what 30 minutes on those.
Yeah. Let's dive into the spectacle of racing that we witnessed on Sunday, and I'm not talking about IndyCar qualifying or the F1 race. I am talking about the All-Star race with NASCAR. So, yeah. So we learned we learned a couple things. Ryan Blaney can win a race twice. Hamlin likes to bitch about things that are irrelevant.
I get my plug in for LaCroix.
Yeah. So
Yeah, okay.
let's dive into that. Who wants to take this topic first? Let's talk about the race. Let's talk more notably about the ending of the race and the fact that we saw a race winner, and then we saw a caution at the checkered flag, and then we saw the same race winner 2 laps later. So does anybody want to dive into that? And
I think Ryan would be a great starting point.
The infamous window net scandal that Denny Hamlin commented on. You want to take that one, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's
I want to comment on it.
We'll have plenty of time.
Thank you.
think it's a bad weekend when everybody's talking about 90 million different things besides the actual product of what your race was. That's usually a bad sign of how the race went. And to be fair, that's obviously okay too, because I just actually woke up yesterday from trying to rewatch it again. Texas, as close to being a dead track as you can get, that is what Texas is. And the fact that NASCAR decided to bring its all-star race, which J.J. Yaley can actually qualify for, so how much of an all-star event is it really, to the worst track on the circuit, and then tried to do all these different things to make it viable, and it still is an absolute crap show. And then on top of it, not only to have a crap show, you put sprinkles on it by throwing a yellow flag for a guy dusting the wall when we've, in our own group text, have seen guys spin out 3 or 4 times in a turn. Drivers are driving around with tires exploded in regular races. And then for NASCAR to throw a caution to try to take away $1 million from Ryan Blaney, then completely circumvent its entire rules when it comes to the window netting, let that go on, and then let Ryan Blaney win the race again. I mean, it was bad. It always will be bad because it's Texas. What they tried to do to save that track with SMI, it's a joke. What makes it even worse is the general manager of now Texas Motor Speedway doubles down on the fact that it's a shit show there when the fans loudly speak. So you have, I've been preaching before, NASCAR again throwing a shit show when it comes to how it runs its races. Texas being a shit show, doubling down and telling its own fans, you guys don't really know what you want. You just want to complain. And then the fans being able to voice their own opinions and say, no, this is really, really, really bad. And even people that work in the sport tell you how terrible Texas is. It was a really bad weekend for what is supposed to be a marquee event and an all-star weekend.
Agreed. Steve?
I don't know if I'm as harsh on it as you are. It was definitely convoluted to follow in the first place. It was just, my wife kept asking me, is this the last stage they're going to race? And I was like, I don't even know. I don't know if it's 3 stages, 4 stages, or I don't even know how many stages there are. We aren't getting a lot of conversation. We're just listening to Clint Boyer jokes and not listening to any commentary on the race. I don't think it's a good track. I'm not a fan of 1.5 mile tracks to begin with. I don't like the fact that 5 laps into a race, the 10th place car is 11, 12, 13 seconds behind. And that's just the nature of the track, nothing else. In the end, I thought it did not do a service to the fact that, as you said, Ryan, this should be NASCAR's marquee event. It should be the next to the Daytona to start the race, and Phoenix to end the season and crown a champion. This should be right up there as the marquee event, the All-Star race, and they should just make it fun. I do agree with you. They're finding ways to let too many drivers in. And if only 15 guys qualify, then they're the 15 All-Stars this year. That's it. You go with those 15 guys.
Hell, the Bud shootouts are more exclusive than the damn All-Star race.
Yeah, they are. You got to win a pole to get in the Bud shootout.
Yeah. So who owns Texas? Marcus Smith, is that who owns Texas Motor Speedway?
He's now the president of Speedway Motorsports from Bruton Smith. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Smith, yeah.
So,
but he's not the general manager. It used to be Eddie Gossage, but he stepped down.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the end, I think I don't know if I'd call it a shit show, but it wasn't enjoyable. If you weren't a diehard NASCAR fan, you were probably flipping over to the NBA game that was on that night, or the end of the PGA golf tournament, which was, Justin Thomas winning in overtime. There were other more compelling events that were going on.
Right. The 2018 Winter Olympics rerun was on. Curling.
Yeah. Okay. Wasn't that? That was curling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, curling's getting pretty good now. It was biathlon. Let me go there. But now I lost my train of thought because now I'm just thinking of curling. Hang on, give me 1 second here. Oh well, it's not going to come back to me. I think it was just an unmanageable thing. They need to take X number of drivers to qualify, set your qualifications down, go. Oh, I know what it was. The crap at the end of the race was just absolutely horsebucky. My gut feeling is some guy flipped the switch for the yellow to come on long before anybody wanted him to do it. I have a feeling people at NASCAR wanted that thing to end and get out of there as fast as we wanted to turn it off and go to the NBA game. So, just my opinion. But how do you give it back to? I mean, should they? Let me ask you this, and I'll shut up after this. Should they have done the right thing and just said, "Look, we screwed up," or we're going to let him come in and put his window net back up and get him back, and he retains his position?
100%.
No, yeah, or they should have said, "Hey, we know this is an all-star race with some different rules, but in every other situation, Ryan Blaney wins the race there because he's already taken the white flag, and that wreck happened at the end of the pack. It wasn't going to affect the race in any way, and Ryan Blaney wins the race because he's 200 yards from the finish line when the caution comes out." I think NASCAR made a mistake by throwing that caution in the first place, especially since we see during the race we saw Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Ross Chastain get taken out in a pretty, I don't have a better word to describe it, but a pretty cool looking wreck, in the middle of that race where maybe a caution should have been thrown because the tire went down.
Joe,
what?
It wasn't cool to me when the 9 car is involved in it.
Well, I thought it was cool.
May have been cool to you because Harvick was 40 laps behind everything.
Well, Steve, I thought it was cool as shit, and I thought it also highlighted.
And Boyd Larson had already tagged the wall on his own without the help of Chastain. So
I thought it was pretty cool, and I think it highlighted that was one of the first wrecks we've seen with a car almost going on its top, and I think it highlighted how one good takeaway from the race was it kind of highlighted how safe the new next gen cars are. But I think at the end of the day, with all the gimmicks and the All-Star race and the spectacle that was put on to hardcore NASCAR fans, it's pretty stupid. The casual NASCAR fans, I think it's pretty stupid. And to Marcus Smith, to make the comments that he made, essentially saying if people were at the race, they liked it. Well, you know what? The 60,000 people at the race might have liked it, but the 2.4 million people that were watching on TV fucking hated it. So, why don't you shut your mouth? And I'm pretty worked up about it, Steve, especially when somebody that is a multimillionaire running a track that's so disconnected from the actual sport because he's a businessman trying to run a track and he doesn't have any idea what produces good racing to tell me what I should like. That's a stupid race. We talk about dirt racing all the time and should we put these NASCARs, should we put the next gen cars on dirt racing? Hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do it for the All-Star race when it doesn't matter. We've talked about that before. So that's my piece on the subject. Does anybody else have any takeaways or rebuttals to what I said?
Yeah, I'll go with what you're saying, Joe. And, looking at kind of a broader spectrum, 2 years ago when nobody else was allowed to do any type of sport, NASCAR said we're going to be there. And I think that coming from COVID lockdowns, and we've seen this sport grow, especially now that we got the new car, and you have yourself a situation where now new people, which we know the viewership has rose, and you're trying to reach that 18 to 49 range that we talked about before. And what better way to do that to say, hey, this is our all-star race. This is where the best of the best are going to compete, and we're going to give away $1 million. Number one, you set up the gimmicks that it takes. You had to, like I said, I had to fill out a thesis just to tell you how the hell it even is run.
Right.
That's not how motorsports is. Shit, all we get told is that you turn left and go fast, and then you get to the all-star race. Nobody can figure out what the hell's going on. Exactly like you said, Steve. Your wife jumps in and goes, "Is this the last one?" And you're like, "I hope."
That's because your wife's sick of watching it, Steve.
Right. Well, and then on top,
she was wanting to watch Outlander or something like that. I don't know.
It would have been a much better show. I've never seen it. I guarantee it was a better product than what we had to see.
Don't start it. Do not start it. Save yourself, Ryan.
And to go with Joe's point, to me, and this is what is wrong, and maybe as a large picture with society, is you do something that is completely not in line and not in tune with what the public thinks. And not only do you say, you know what, I agree with you guys. We were not happy with what we saw Sunday. We're going to do whatever we can for you, the fans, to be treated better next year, because we want to put on a show for you. We want you to like Texas Motor Speedway. And obviously there's things there when we're watching that's not a great product right now. And we want to get back to that, because Texas Motor Speedway, there's a reason it seats 150,000 people, because it used to be a great track at one point. But we're not there yet. But instead, you got Marcus Smith coming out and say, no, people just like to bitch. And then you get to a poll by the public, and it said this is the worst race that's ever been recorded on Jeff Gluck's poll, and that goes against the 2007 Brickyard, when the cars couldn't even run 10 laps without tires blowing. The public has said, no, we're tired of hearing what you tell us that we should like, because NASCAR's really good at that. Just like they tried to do again this year with the 550 package, before the drivers went in and said, no, you really need to up this to 670. This is going to be a shit car too if you do that. NASCAR has done so much to say, this is what you should enjoy. It doesn't listen to its fans, and it probably has the most passionate fan base out of any group of the major sports. There is more people that will go onto social media that actually care about, a driver, a team, a racetrack, whatever it may be. They're sick and tired of something being shoved down their throat and say, no, you should like this. You need to like this. You will like this, versus actually listen to what do the fans really want. And obviously there's a clear disconnect there, and I completely agree with you, Joe.
Yeah. Steve?
So I got two things to say. One is, Brian, I agree with you. The passion of fans of NASCAR and what this show is doing today, after we decided to change times, I get a phone call, and it's from our God, our leader, our big cheese, our head honcho, our number one.
Right.
Mike Goodpaster.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me, Steve.
Well, no, you're just part of the panel.
I thought he was going to talk about his wife.
Well, that's in a different life. She is the God.
She actually texted Steve right now and said, I know you didn't just say Mike.
No, she texted me, do you want pizza or chimichangas?
I'd go with chimichangas.
We're going with chimichangas. Let me finish. What I was going to say is, God damn it, Joe, you did this to me again. Hang on. Let me collect my thoughts.
Our fearless leader called.
Oh, our fearless leader called. Thank you. He and I had a 10-minute conversation on F1 racing today and auto racing. And, and this is what he listens to our NASCAR show periodically. This is what we've done. This is the influences show and the sport has on non-fans. We took a guy like my good pastor who thought there are no athletes in NASCAR. And look at him. He's now asking me questions about F1, and we had a long discussion.
We have molded him into a race fan, Steve.
I have.
Oh.
Okay.
Right. Your panelist had nothing to do with that, didn't
No, the panelist had something to do with it. And secondly, all I got to say is, in regard to your comments about this whole thing, Joe, all I can say is fucking A.
Fucking A. Well, and to kind of move away, I think we've hit on the All-Star race a little bit, but
can we talk about the real ugly bitch in the basket?
Well, let me say something first, Steve.
Okay, go ahead. Then come back and say what's your ugly bitch.
I do want to remind everybody that we get to do this show because we are powered by betting.net. And betting.net offers expert user reviews for every online sportsbook and casino in your state. So head on over to betting.net and check them out. Steve, go ahead.
Let's talk about the real ugly bitch here, and that's the idiocy of one of the suppliers in this race. Anybody want to say it before I say it?
No, go ahead.
Goodyear. Oh my God. How many tires were blowing for no reason? A track that doesn't cause a lot of wear and tear generally. And these cars were basically falling apart after 10, 12 laps. I mean, when Kyle's tire went down, he had 4 laps on him.
4.
He'd come out 4 laps is all he had when his tire went down, causing Chastain to pull a Joey Chitwood on his back and then take out the hero of the sport.
Yeah. So
Goodyear. What do we think of Goodyear?
That seems a little subjective on the hero of the sport, but you have it until then.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
About Goodyear. I don't know the money that Goodyear makes to be the sole tire manufacturer in NASCAR. And I don't know what they pay NASCAR to be the sole manufacturer of NASCAR. But that sponsorship and the product that they put out on that racetrack, and granted, it's not the same thing we're putting on our cars that are supposed to last 40, 50,000 miles, but that sponsorship is doing nothing for them, at least for NASCAR fans, to make people want to go out and buy Goodyear tires. Because when I see the product that they put on those race cars and understand how worthless they are, the last thing in my mind is when my vehicle needs tires is to run to the tire shop and ask for a set of Goodyears. So that's.
Let me tell you about that, Joe. When I bought my truck, I went from 18-inch rims to 20-inch chrome rims, and I had to replace the tires because the truck came with 18-inch. So I traded in the 18-inch to get 20. Guy said I got 2 tires that fit that, a Goodyear or a Bridgestone. And this is Tire America, Discount Tire America, depending on what part of the country you're in. They sponsor a lot of Penske racing.
You said I'll take the one that makes the golf ball.
That's Bridgestone. Anyway, I have Bridgestones on my truck. But anyway, the guy there said, the salesman there said, I said, well, I think the Goodyear, these are the VRs or the kind of a more racing type tire. He goes, don't touch the Goodyears. They're not the best tire on the market. They're just the most expensive.
I agree with that.
They've got a reputation for being in NASCAR. He said, if I were you, you want good ride, you want durability to last, you want good grip, take the Bridgestone tire. It's a much better tire, and it's less expensive.
I'll take me a set of them there Hoosier racing tires is what I'm
Yeah, there you go. But anyway.
Joe, you want to know what makes this worse?
What?
Adam Stevens, who used to be Kyle Busch's crew chief and now is with Christopher Bell, after Kyle Busch spun out at California at Auto Club, he came out and said that we looked at what Goodyear sent us when it came to tire pressures, and this just came out this morning, and we decided to go ultra conservative on the tire pressures because we didn't think that the tires could handle this. So not only did we stay within the regulation, what they gave us, we went ultra conservative, and they've still had problems.
Yeah, they're a shitty tire.
That's the key word there. It's a product that is not fit and it's not up to par what should be with the top level of racing here in the United States and North America with NASCAR. something's got to be done. Whether they figure it out right now in their R&D, or NASCAR moves on to another manufacturer from here on out. But there is nothing more frustrating than what should be the only thing you're not worried about is something that gives way, like a tire. Again, this isn't tire wear. This is a blowout. 20 laps in. Okay, we're talking 35 miles on most tracks. Giving out. It's a catastrophic failure. It's one thing if you're pushing it and the tire gives out because it starts to cord because it wears out. We're not to that. That's part of racing. We're not to that. We're talking catastrophic failures that are causing drivers to lose races and lose points, and it's something that they can't control. It's an unknown variable that can happen at any time, and at the top level of sports, it's bullshit.
Well, Joe, let me ask you a question to that, and then, or do you want to comment first?
Well, no. Go ahead and ask your question. I mean,
my question is just this. Well, I got a statement first, and we can address both these. First, my statement: why the hell doesn't NASCAR or Goodyear offer 3 tires like F1 does, and IndyCar offers 3 tires? They offer an ultra soft, a medium, and a hard tire, and that gives
because they can't figure out one tire. They couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Okay, but let's just say that would say if the soft tires are blowing out quick, okay, we got to run the hard tires if we want to stay in the race. Okay. So that's one. And the second is, Joe, do they throw these? Is there some intentionality, more conspiracy theory in there?
That's what I was going to bring up.
If these tires blow out, that throws the yellow more often, keeps the cars bunched up. Anything they can do to artificially keep those cars in a pack, in a bunch, so they'll race restarts. I bet NASCAR loves restarts.
Yeah.
Because in the middle of a race, that's the biggest calamity that's going on in a race in a mile and a half track is the restart. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, Steve, I'll say that's what I was going to bring up because you mentioned that last week on the show when we happened to be talking about tires again. Is this a manufacturer problem that NASCAR has put out? And I think about that, and then I go, well, I don't believe that's true because I don't think NASCAR is smart enough to do that at this point from what I've seen this season out of them. So I don't think – I don't want to believe that it's a manufacturer problem, but it would certainly fit because when these tires blow out, it does cause problems with the race, and it gets all of us talking. It gets the fans talking when we see these blowouts, and it's the topic of our discussion today. So, what's the old saying? There's no such thing as bad press. So, maybe it is a manufacturer problem by NASCAR. Maybe they're telling Goodyear, give us the shittiest tire you possibly can and see how many problems it can cause. I don't think that's the case. But another aspect of the tire issue that I want to talk about is we've seen some races this year where we've seen this specifically with tires just blowing out very early. I mean, this has been a trending thing all year with tire problems. But has this been worse at tracks that we've went to? How many tracks have they visited this year that's had PJ1 put down? Is that something that could be contributing to tire wear like we saw at Texas?
I don't think so at all. We've only been to Texas that's had it, and then they were talking about putting it down in Martinsville, but nobody even got it. I don't believe so. It was multi-groove, so
okay.
And it was like 3 or 4 grooves. I think it was fine. They've really tried to move away from the PJ1 because the actual car itself and the horsepower has done enough to where you don't need it. The only reason why they did it at Texas is because Texas sucks, and they tried to reconfigure it in 2017. It's been awful for Texas since. And even then, the PJ1 didn't change the fact that it was a 1.5 group racetrack. But the only thing I would combat that with, that type of conspiracy, is that the last race that we had at Kansas, William Byron was in first place and Christopher Bell was in third place, and they both blew tires and they didn't throw cautions. We're seeing them not throw cautions and letting the cars limp all the way around. So, to me, and we've brought this up, is that these cars, they're blowing more tires and not throwing cautions. So, I think it's just a catastrophic failure by not being able to know how to produce a low-profile tire by Goodyear.
Yeah, but Ryan, in agreement with both of you, don't tell me it didn't cross either one of your minds that when that caution came out, when he was 100 yards, going 100 yards a second at the speed rate, basically, they said, they throw the caution. Do you think they're trying to manufacture for the All-Star race another pass in the grass to win?
100% on
Yeah,
that.
That's what they want.
I find that different than the tire.
They want Earnhardt coming down in the grass and passing Elliott for the $1 million.
No, yeah, no, I agree with
by the
that.
way, $1 million is peanuts. Okay, they've got to up that to something worthwhile racing for. I mean, to those guys, $1 million, that was big when Elliott was the first one to win it, or the first $1 million win. That was a lot of money then, because the total prize money for a year would be about a couple $100,000. And if you could go out one race and get $1 million, great. Now these guys are all making $4, $5, $6 million off their racing. They're between their prize money and their salaries, not to mention what they're getting off their haulers or their merchandising. So this needs to go to a $5, $6, $7, $8 million pot purse. The PGA offers a $10 million purse to the winner of the Tour Championship at the end of the season. Now it's an annuity that I think spread out over 10 or 20 years, but that $10 million will be there for you.
Or they can just get rid of
the
it.
winner of the PGA, Justin Thomas, got a little over $2 million.
Yeah.
To play golf in a beautiful course for free, which if I went there would cost me $400, plus all my golf balls, plus everything else involved, all my soft drinks and the bar and everything going on.
$20 a beer.
$20 a beer, yeah, it's what it costs in the snack bar. But these guys, $1 million isn't enough. But don't think it didn't cross all of our minds. Son of a bitch, they want another restart with a green-white checker, and they're praying to God for another pass in the grass. Then I started looking and saying, man, they're only going to run these all-star races on tracks that have infield grass. Think about it. I mean, Texas has grass on the inside of the track. You can run down in the grass there.
Yeah,
and your mind starts wandering. It's crazy.
I think that's probably what everybody that is a fan of NASCAR was thinking. But before we move on into the Coca Cola 600, everything that we've talked about for the last 57 minutes on this show will not change anytime in the near future, because when you have 2.4 million people tuning in to see a race that doesn't matter, NASCAR at the end of the day, and Fox goes, we don't need to change anything. People are going to watch and they're going to bitch, just like Marcus Smith said. So, the only thing that's really going to change anything, I think, and make huge changes in NASCAR is when their viewership dips below 1 million per race and they say, hey, we got to do something. So I don't see anything changing anytime soon with the viewership that NASCAR's had this year.
Let's see what the ratings are whenever Texas has a playoff race.
Right.
Man,
that might be the worst watch after what was after you put Texas on a pedestal for your All-Star race. I would not be surprised if Texas during the playoff race is the worst watch NASCAR race during the season.
I don't disagree with that. You guys ready to get into the Coca Cola 600?
And I'm saying that you could give me a season where they raced on Talladega, Daytona, Martinsville, Bristol on the asphalt for the concrete, and then Atlanta twice. Atlanta. I can't wait till we get back to Atlanta, and give us the Roval, and give us Coda. Give me those tracks. Scrub the rest of them and just race on those tracks, and just keep going around. And boy, what a season you'd have there! I mean, those are all great tracks.
Those are. You got. I want to see Pocono. Damn it!
Oh, there's another mile and a half turned into a 2.5 mile.
Yeah. So.
Oh well, whatever.
Let's get into the 600 this week, and we all know this is another 1.5 mile track, a little bit different than Texas, though. Ryan, what can we expect to see this week?
Well, hopefully they're allowed 50 sets of tires after what we saw Sunday night. Now, that's the only part that worries me, is that if these tires aren't able to handle, what's coming up, it's going to be tough. The difference between Texas and Charlotte is not nearly as wide. Charlotte, it's wider through the quad oval, but it's not wider during the turns. You're a little bit more free when it comes to 1 and 2. When you get into 3 and 4, it's kind of hell. You know, there's a huge bump, and this is famous for Charlotte for whatever reason. You get through 3, there's a bump coming out of 4, and you will see more drivers than any other time in this sport in a mile and a half. They hit that at the wrong angle, and now you're taking off throttle time. I think this has another chance to be a great mile and a half race with the car that we have. I haven't been disappointed yet, besides for Texas, with what we've had for a mile and a half. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a long race. It's the ultimate endurance part. If you think drivers just turn left, then you really need to invest in what the Coca Cola 600 is. It's 600 miles of straight up 120 degrees in that car. How long can you last? The best driver may not win. It may be the one that has the best endurance at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm. You know, and Ryan, I'll say this because Steve and I, when we talked about the Indy qualifying on Monday in our Indy qualifying show, you know, I made mention that sometimes I think fans forget sometimes that part of racing is not necessarily how fast your car is going to go. That's a huge part of it. But part of that is how well a driver can take care of his car during the race, and how well he can take care of his tires, what RPMs he's running at. And when no doubt about it, when you run a 600-mile race in any form of auto racing, that plays big into it. I mean, when you're talking about an Xfinity race that's 350 miles compared to the Coca-Cola 600, there's a lot of knowledge that goes in from these drivers on how to take care of that car. You're not going to see drivers for the first 300 miles of this track reaming their car out to try to get up front. You're going to see a lot of the best drivers spending most of the day keeping it safe and keeping the RPMs low and taking care of their engine and the rest of their car. And I think sometimes for casual fans, you know, you look out there and you see a Chase Elliott or a Kyle Larson or a Kyle Busch, and you go, why are they running in 14th position in this race? And we're in the second stage of the race. When they're going to make their move up front? And it's like, well, there's a lot going into this 600-mile race, and that's a car that they got to take care of. And, you know, if you go out there and run it like it's the last 20 laps of any race, your car's not going to make it. So that's something to keep an eye on this week. And having said that, when we get into our picks here in a little bit, that's something that I'm going to keep my eye on with my picks for this weekend's race is who has won or who has historically done well in longer 500-mile races, 600-mile races. So that's just something to keep in mind for me. Steve?
No, I agree with everything you said. I'd be just repeating it. I think his track's a little better suited. It's a little more banked, isn't it, Joe or Ryan?
It's much more banked.
It's more banked than Texas.
Yeah, so that makes for more fun racing. There, you're not going to see the degradation of distance between first and 12th place as fast. They tend to stay a little closer together, and you will see the jackrabbits like you do in the Derby or the Preakness. You know, you got the horse that's going to go out and lead the pack. Everybody knows he's going to do that, and you know you'll see some drivers. Bubba will get up front real fast. There's a handful of drivers that'll go to the front quick and want to run up front. But you're right. Most of the guys will just kind of hang back and stay out of trouble as best they possibly. You can't ever be perfect at it, but they're going to just not get in the fray melee and not put the undue stress on their cars. It is unique to NASCAR in the fact that it is an endurance race, as you guys said, and taking care of your equipment becomes more important than your ability to, as Ricky Bobby would say, I just want to go fast.
Yeah.
Joe, I want to
go ahead.
I don't want to take away from like the actual NASCAR part itself of, you know, cars going left, but I think more than anything, if you're a casual viewer, go into this race. If you have any type of racing game, play it for an hour. See if your concentration can be that way for an hour. Now times that times 5. Okay. Now put yourself in a car that's over 120 degrees, what it normally is at Charlotte. Now put yourself where your heartbeat is going at over 130 beats per minute for 5 straight hours. Okay. This race is totally different than any other race that we run with the Coca Cola 600. And, you know, at one point, Dale Jarrett lost 20 pounds during this race. 20 pounds because of all the fluid that he lost. This is a true testament of what it is to be an athlete inside of NASCAR. And if you go into that mindset, I think you'll gain so much more of appreciation, on top of the fact that, we set this Coca Cola 600 out because it is an endurance race and you do have to sacrifice to win this race. And on top of it, it's on Memorial Day. So we remember all the people that sacrifice. So this is just a small testament to why we run it the way that we run it. And, it's a great weekend. And, at the end of the day, the guy that ends up in victory lane could not be more excited to get the hell out of a car after what he's gone through in that.
Yeah, Ryan, to give you a little testimony, I think I may have said this before, but, I was a district manager for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and I had a team of 10 to 11 sales reps at any given time. We would have sales meetings. It was always my responsibility to find something fun, some activity for them to do. Okay. So on once or twice a year, I would set up go-karting at one of the indoor tracks. And I loved it so much. I always made sure I put myself with two of the dolls of our district, the ones that show up to the go-kart track in high heels and fingernails that far apart and have their hair all hairsprayed and done. I had to put a helmet on it. And I did that for an intention because what we always ran was what was a 2-hour Grand Prix or endurance race. And you bought that. And so what you do is you would change drivers every X number of laps, bring your car into the pits and put another driver in the car. Well, I knew these girls would get in one time and they would never want to get back in the car again. I'm thinking, yeah, great. Get them in, start them off, let them start, get their laps in, get out. And I got the car for an hour and 30 minutes to myself. I just get to run by myself. I don't have to get out of my car. I don't have to do anything. At the end of the hour and 30 minutes, I could barely hold on to the steering wheel. I mean, my hands were blistered. I had gloves on. And you're right. They made you wear overalls. I mean, no fire to retardant race suits, but overalls. I had that stupid neck brace around your neck. I had a full face helmet on and a baklava underneath it.
Yep.
It's just, and I'm sweating like a pig. I'm hot. I'm thirsty as all get out. My arms are tired because the go-kart you think that's easy. When you're
vibration too.
My forearms got so tired from just trying to turn the damn thing. And toward the end of the hour and a half, there were a couple times I tried to turn and my hands wouldn't turn it. I tagged the wall hard. The second time it knocked me out of the car and I bit the hell out of the steering wheel because I came all the way out of the car and hit the wall with my body. And they wouldn't let me. They didn't want me to get back in, but I did. But they had to give me another cart. And they gave me what was called the big boys cart because I'm tall. So they had a little bit longer cart. And so then I had to get in a small cart, a normal size cart. So my knees are blocking my view in the visor. But I tell you, an hour and 30 minutes of that made me say, oh my God, you have no idea what these guys do for 600 miles in this car. They have power steering. Yeah, but they have no air conditioning in those cars. And they're cranking up heat upwards of 200 miles an hour in the cockpit, 200 degrees in the cockpit of that car, coming off that engine and things like that. So it is brutal. It is a test of endurance on the driver and the equipment.
For sure.
And it is a great, as you said, Ryan, it's a great ceremony and display to our veterans and, to memorialize the people that gave their lives and sacrificed for our country. NASCAR does that show better than anybody does. And that's a great day. Just watch all the military stuff happen prior to the race.
Right.
Well, let's get into our picks for this week then, Steve. To quickly recap, nobody got the bonus points for the All-Star race because nobody picked Ryan Blaney because why would you?
I did yell at him in our last show.
Yeah. So to just quick recap, nobody scored any points last week, but it was a non-scored race for the season. Right now I'm currently leading with 43 points. Steve, you have 41 points. And Ryan, you have 29. Ryan, this week you will have the honors. I will go ahead and you can have the honors of picking your drivers first this week.
All right. So the 5 that I got, I'm doing something I haven't done all year, and that's go with 3 Hendrick guys. I feel like at the end of the day, they've ran really well. So I went with Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, William Byron.
Dickhead.
If I don't choose him, Steve, that means he's going to win.
I got Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, William Byron, and who? Who?
Who was your 5th?
Kyle Busch.
Kyle. Oh, I didn't know what the hell you were doing. I was like, his internet doesn't want out.
Kyle Busch.
Oh no,
Kyle
I was
Busch.
just because you took 3 Hendricks drivers and didn't take Elliott. You took the other 3 boneheads.
That's
Okay,
why
I got it.
I gave
Cry,
you that
baby.
nice long pause.
Crybaby Bush. I got it.
All right. Oh,
Steve.
stop it.
You're
All
up.
right. All right. I went with 3 Hendrick drivers. I went with Byron, Larson, and Elliott. And then I went with Ross Chastain. And I'm going to go out
room on Steve this week.
Pardon?
I said I ain't making up room on Steve this week.
Well, no, yeah, there's a couple of them. You did not take Elliott, so there's room there possibly for one of us to move ahead of each other. And also, you didn't take my 5th driver. My 5th driver, I'm going to say, is an extension of last week, and he needs to win to get in. I'm going to go with Blaney.
Oh, Steve, what a dumb move.
Ouch.
I'm just kidding. That's not a bad move. So, going on what I said, I'm gonna try to pick some drivers that I think know how to race here and have raced here before. One I was kind of iffy on, but I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna go with JJ Yaley.
And betting.net just turned us off. They're like, well, there goes the legitimacy of this show.
So I'm going to go with William Byron this week as well. Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch. So
repeat your 5.
I'm going with the Busch brothers. Martin Truex. Yep, Martin Truex, William Byron, and Kyle Larson.
Okay.
So we will see.
So I will be in last, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to blow you guys out of the water this week.
I might be Alex Bowman's biggest fan this week because why do you guys hate Alex Bowman?
I don't hate Alex.
I don't hate Alex Bowman. I don't. I just think the other 3 Hendrick
say
drivers.
You hate Alex Bowman.
I just think the other 3 Hendrick drivers are just a little bit hotter right now than he is.
I was actually on the fence, and if you guys don't know this, currently Kyle Busch is the favorite to win this race. I think he's at plus 550 odds right now, along with Kyle Larson at plus 550.
Not what I saw.
What I looked mine up on DraftKings. What were you looking at?
Yeah, on FanDuel it's plus 400 for Kyle Larson.
Okay, so is he the favorite?
Which is shitty odds, so I wouldn't take that.
Is he? He's plus 400. Is he the favorite on FanDuel? You remember what Kyle Busch was on FanDuel?
Plus 500.
Okay. Right now, currently on DraftKings, they are even. So just a little insight for you. But on Friday, we will be coming at you with the top 5 best bets for the Coca Cola 600, as well as the top 5 best bets for the Indy 500. Also, Steve and Ryan and I will be here Friday at some point to give a Indy 500 preview. Mr. Ryan Peters over there will be at the Indy 500. So whenever we get around to doing a post-race show, he'll be able to bring us all the action from there. We are also going to
first one.
Yeah, his first Indy 500. So I know he's pretty excited about it.
I'm excited to see this oval that has 4 corners that you mentioned on the call.
You know what I meant by oval when I said that.
I'll be like,
you know what I meant by oval? All right.
Where are you sitting,
big
Ryan?
ass circle. I am sitting right at the end of exit 1.
out of turn one, so you're in the southeast vista.
Yep.
That's
exactly right.
Well,
Yep.
he should be able to see the. Correct me if I'm wrong. You should be able to see the whole front straightaway, turns 1 and 2, and then
That's pretty much it.
Is he going to be able to catch any of the back straightaway from there, Steve?
Now he'll see him leaving 2 and going in, but not much at all.
Right.
So
He'll catch him coming out of turn 4. Just see it, but it happens so quick. By the time he realizes what car just came out of turn 4, they'll be halfway down the straightaway by then.
Yeah.
I like sitting by pit road. I like being the guy that watches them leave pit road and get back onto the track, which
you'll be able to see pit road
long.
You'll be able to see pit road.
The fun of going to your first race is what you don't realize is right away you get hit with the smell of rubber and the smell of ethanol. And ethanol burns different, and it has a completely different smell to it than does the gasoline that they run in NASCAR.
I have a feeling I'm going to have the smell of hops and barley more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bring your own.
The first
make sure you bring your own. Don't buy theirs.
No, absolutely.
You will pay $20.
You can bring your own beer into that racetrack. By the way, I would assume that's the same for the Indy 500.
Just grab a couple Subway sandwiches. Don't get a lot because you're no longer there long enough to even really worry about eating. Hell, the damn race barely lasts 3 hours now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve. My first Indy race was at Kentucky Speedway, and I can't remember what year that was. It had to be probably 03 or 04 maybe.
Yeah.
The track hadn't been open that long. I'd never seen IndyCar in person. I got in there, and I think it was a 350-mile race, and it felt like it took me longer to walk to the track than the race lasted. So.
Oh, no. I mean, I remember when I first started Indy cars, it was a 5-hour race. The speeds were cut way down and a lot more accidents and wrecks. And you were there all day. You needed to eat. But here, and I'll tell you, if you watched last night with John Oliver, you'll never go to a Subway ever again in your life.
Well, Joe, I went to betting.net, and I was looking good odds for the Hoosier boy, Connor Daly. So I dropped $5 to win $250 on Connor Daly. So I just want to go ahead and publicly apologize to Connor Daly for me ruining his chances of winning at his home track.
Well,
he runs strong at Indy. He runs good there.
It might be a good thing. I know that we're going to do the Indy 500 preview. I think, Steve, are you and Mike going to do a NBA show tomorrow or Friday night?
With Mike, who knows? Yeah. Okay. I think we're talking about it, but I just tell me when do I need to plug my headphones in? Okay. Tell me, give me a time.
I don't know yet. We'll let's talk about that off air, but it'll be sometime Friday evening. Ryan's going to the Indy 500, like I said, and then also Ryan and I are actually going to catch another form of racing come Monday. So that should be a fun night. We were going to go catch the World Outlaws at Lawrenceburg Speedway. So we will work in a time, even if we have to do a post-race show with Ryan highly intoxicated at 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday night. We are going to do that post-race of the Coca Cola 600 and the Indianapolis 500. We'll bring you that. So stay tuned. Like and subscribe to our page here on Facebook or YouTube so you can stay up to date with all the other videos that we do put out here on The Grueling Truth. Ryan, Steve, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up the show?
The only thing I would say is, use this weekend to remember why we have 3-day weekend. That's the most important thing that you can do. My mom served in the military for 30 years. My dad also was in the military. The things that these heroes do, there's no better country because of them. So just remember why you get to have hot dogs and hamburgers and enjoy the great weather. It's because we live off the backs of, our heroes.
Very good. That is
my real father served in his entire career in the military. Yeah. So spent his whole life. I was born at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I'm a military base brat.
Yeah.
You know where Fort Leonard Wood? You heard of it?
I've lived over a year of my life at Fort Leonard Wood, Steve. I joined the Army to be a combat engineer and then changed MOSs and became an MP. So, and then when I ended my career in the Army, I had the chemical MOS. So I have the unique distinction of holding 3 of the 4 MOSs that are taught at Fort Leonard Wood. So I have spent some I've spent some time there.
I was born there.
So small world. That is a great thing to end the show with. We will see you in a couple days for our Indy 500 preview and our post-race show. Thanks for tuning in. Before we leave you, I want to remind you that the Grueling Truth in this show has been powered by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Thanks for tuning in.